Chapter 42-57. Let's go back. It's futile to continue searching. If we encounter the people from the Heavenly Palace, we won't even be able to preserve the last of our bloodline. Clan leader Xin Fan sighed and made his decision. The other powerful figures from the Skyheart tribe nodded as well. They then turned and headed in the direction they came from. After flying for a while, Elder Xin Fan stopped and turned to Lu Ming. "Brother Mu Yun, aren't you leaving?" Yes, Lu Ming had been standing there and he didn't follow clan leader Xin Fan and the others. "Clan leader Xin Fan, you guys go back first. I'll take a look around," Lu Ming said. He was still unwilling to give up and wanted to continue exploring. "All right, be careful. I'll leave someone at the entrance to wait for you," clan leader Xin Fan said. "Clan leader, don't worry. If anything happens to me, I won't say a word about the Skyheart tribe," Lu Ming said. Clan leader Xin Fan and the others were relieved. They bade farewell to Lu Ming and flew back to the direction they came from. Soon, they disappeared from Lu Ming's sight. Lu Ming sized up the surroundings and then continued to fly in the direction that he had been heading earlier. Next, Lu Ming saw a few more universe black holes. Without exception, there were things in the universe black holes. To think that there are so many black holes in the universe here. It doesn't make sense for them to be so densely packed. Could it be that they were opened by the experts of the Heavenly Palace? Such combat strength is really incredible, Lu Ming thought. The strength of the Heavenly Palace was even more unfathomable. The universe black holes were terrifying. Even divine masters would be in danger if they entered. However, they were opened up and used to imprison criminals. It was shocking. The living beings in the universe black holes should be dead. There's no movement. After all, the living beings in the universe black holes had been trapped for many years. It was normal for them to die. Lu Ming didn't give up and continued to fly. "Hey, that seems to be a human." Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In front of him, another cosmic black hole appeared. In the center of this cosmic black hole, there was a figure. This figure looked exactly the same as a human. He floated there, his hair disheveled. His body was bound by 8 chains, and the other end of the chains led to the depths of the universe's black hole. It was very strange. He was clearly in the black hole of the universe. The black hole of the universe could devour everything, including light. Moreover, this figure was extremely small compared to the black hole of the universe. However, Lu Ming could see this figure clearly. It was a marvelous feeling. It was as if this figure was emitting a marvelous light that allowed Lu Ming to see it clearly. This should be a human. There's no mistake about it. It's a pity that such a powerful being of the human race has died. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed inwardly. Just as he was about to go around the black hole and leave, his body suddenly stiffened. That's not right. Just now, he seemed to have moved. Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. He clearly saw the finger of the figure in the black hole twitch slightly. If it was an ordinary person, they might suspect that they were hallucinating. However, at Lu Ming's level, it was almost impossible for him to have hallucinations. He was 100% sure that the figure's finger did move just now. Could it be that this figure is still alive? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as a thought flashed across his mind. If the figure was still alive, perhaps he could learn some secrets of this place from him. As for rescuing the figure, sorry, Lu Ming didn't have that ability yet. Lu Ming's eyes widened as he stared at the figure in the cosmic black hole. After a while, the figure's finger twitched again. That's right, he was right. This person was definitely still alive. Lu Ming looked hopeful as he continued to watch. Next, the figure's finger twitched a few times in a row. Then, his arm suddenly moved. Clang! The chains on his arm vibrated and came out of the black hole. Swish! After that, Lu Ming saw 2 dazzling rays of light emerge from the figure's messy hair. Those 2 rays of light were like divine swords that pierced through the darkness. It was dazzling. It came from the figure's eyes. "So, it's a little boy of the 9th godly emperor Leia." A deep voice came from the person's mouth, and it was filled with disappointment. Clang! The figure's body shook, and the chains around him rattled. He raised his head and revealed his face. He was very young, around 20 years old. He was very handsome. His eyes were filled with divine light. It seemed like sword lights were flying out of his eyes, as if they were going to pierce through the sky. That person's voice can come out. Lu Ming was surprised. The cosmic black hole could swallow everything, even light. Of course, it could swallow sound. However, that person's voice could come out, as well as the sound of the chains. Lu Ming could only conclude that that person's cultivation level was too high. It was beyond common sense. My voice can't come out, whispered Lu Ming. His cultivation level wasn't that high. If he spoke, he would be swallowed by the cosmic black hole. Your voice can't come out, but I can hear it, whispered Lu Ming. The other person's voice came again. You can hear me? Lu Ming was delighted. He hastily cupped his fist and asked, Master, who are you? How come you're trapped here? Who am I? It's a long story. I'm curious though. You're just a tiny cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer. How come you're here? No, wait. Suddenly, the other party seemed to have discovered the sound. There was an even more dazzling glow in his eyes. He stared intently at Lu Ming, as though he wanted to see through all of Lu Ming's secrets. Forbidden strength. You can control forbidden strength. You have a forbidden body. A shocked voice sounded from that figure's mouth. Lu Ming frowned and said, How can you tell? He was really surprised. Forbidden strength was difficult to see on the surface. When he was in the heavenly palace, even the Lord of Heaven hadn't been able to see through it. But the person in front of him was separated by a cosmic black hole. They were so far apart, and he was trapped. How could he see that he controlled forbidden strength? Ha ha ha, don't be surprised. I'm very familiar with forbidden strength because my teacher has a forbidden body. How could I not see through it? Laughed the voice. What? Lu Ming was astonished. The other person's teacher had a forbidden body. Until now, Lu Ming only knew of 3 people with taboo bodies. One was Fei Huang. One was the leader of the ancient divine court. The other was Xian Yanqing's previous life, Tang Qing's father. Who was the other person's teacher? Was it one of them? Chapter 4258. Is your master Senior Fei Huang, the lord of the Grand Ancient Divine Court, or is his surname Tang? Lu Ming asked the question in his heart. Little guy, you know a lot at such a young age. To tell you the truth, my master's surname is Tang, the figure in the black hole said. His surname is really Tang. Is he really Xiao Qing's father in her previous life? Many thoughts emerged in Lu Ming's mind. If it was true, then he had met one of his own. Senior, do you know Tang Jun and Tang Qing? Lu Ming asked. Tang Jun and Tang Qing are my master's daughters and my junior sisters. How can I not know them? It's a pity that they died in the battle back then. It's a pity that the heavens are jealous of geniuses. Their talent is much higher than mine. The man in the black hole sighed deeply and suddenly thought of something. He stared at Lu Ming and said, The 2 junior sisters have died countless years ago. How do you know their names? You said Senior Fei Huang just now. You know Senior Fei Huang. She told you, right? That. Tang Qing and Tang Jun are not dead. They are still alive. Lu Ming said. Still alive? How is that possible? They died in the battle back then. How can they still be alive? Kid, don't try to lie to me, the man in the black hole said. They did die in their previous life, but they reincarnated. Lu Ming said. Ha ha ha, reincarnation? How is that possible? Who in the world can really reincarnate? No, did my master succeed? Yes, my master must have succeeded. The man in the black hole first muttered to himself, then laughed crazily. Senior, what I said is true. Tang Qing reincarnated as Xian Yanqing, and she is my wife, Lu Ming said. Your wife? The man in the black hole widened his eyes again. His eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming. After a long while, he guessed, you have a taboo body. You are worthy of junior sister. In that case, we are on the same side. I hope you didn't lie to me, Senior. I can swear that everything I said just now is true. Oh right, Junior is Lu Ming. How should I address Senior? Lu Ming said. Since the other party was Xian Yanqing's senior brother in his previous life, then they were on the same side. Lu Ming naturally had no need to hide his name. Back then, people called me the Third Demon Sword. You can call me the Third Demon Sword, the man in the black hole said. The Third Demon Sword? What a strange name. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. No, the two junior sisters are fine. This is great. I must go out and meet them, the Third Demon Sword muttered to himself. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from his body as he struggled with all his might. Clang! Clang! The chains began to shake violently, emitting violent vibrations. In the end, the Third Demon Sword couldn't break free. Damn it, my power has been sealed, and I'm far from my peak state. I can't get out at all. The Third Demon Sword roared. Then, he looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you have a taboo body and are the husband of my junior sisters. We are on the same side. You have to help me get out of this black hole. As long as you help me leave this black hole, I can take you out of here. Hearing the Third Demon Sword's words, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as the other party could escape, he could take him out of here. This made Lu Ming very tempted. However, he was immediately discouraged. The other party was in the universe's black hole. How could he help? Senior, you are in the universe's black hole. I can't help you at all. With my cultivation, once I step into the universe's black hole, I will be completely swallowed by the power of the universe's black hole. Lu Ming said. This is a problem. With your taboo power, you should be able to help me cut these chains, but you can't come in at all. The Third Demon Sword frowned and thought. After a while, the Third Demon Sword said, the main thing is that my power is too weak. If I can recover a part of my power, I can take you into the black hole. How can I help you recover a part of your power? I have some crystal stones here. I don't know if they can help. Lu Ming took out the crystal stones given to him by the Skyheart clan. He had used half of them before, so there was still half left. It's useless. This energy is too weak. It won't be of much use to me. If you want to help me recover my power, there is only one way. At this point, the Third Demon Sword stopped. What way? Lu Ming asked. I am a sword cultivator. Around this starry sky, there should be many floating corpses and even some broken magic weapons. Among them, there are some sword-type magic weapons that will be of great use to me. If you can get me a few sword-type magic weapons for me to absorb, my power will recover a lot. However, this world can also be called a prison. It is patrolled by experts from the Heavenly Palace. If you encounter them, it will be very dangerous. The Third Demon Sword Dao. Broken magic weapons? Why haven't I seen them before? Lu Ming was puzzled. He had only seen corpses and not broken magic weapons. You came from that direction, right? There might not be any in that direction, but there should be in the opposite direction. If I remember correctly, there should be an ancient battlefield in that direction. There should be broken magic weapons floating there. The Third Demon Sword explained. Okay, I'll get you some broken sword-type magic weapons. Lu Ming nodded, his eyes resolute. If he wanted to leave this place, he had to take this risk. Otherwise, he would be imprisoned here for the rest of his life. How could he be willing to accept that? Moreover, even if he encountered experts from the Heavenly Palace, they might not kill him. If they killed him, how could the Heavenly Palace obtain the forbidden power? Therefore, he decided to take action. After asking for directions, Lu Ming flew in that direction. Next, Lu Ming passed by at least a dozen black holes. However, there was no movement in them. They were all very quiet, and he did not know whether they were dead or alive. Lu Ming ignored them and continued forward. Finally, he saw a large number of objects floating in the starry sky ahead. Broken stars, dilapidated palaces, corpses of experts, and broken magic weapons. This place really did look like an ancient battlefield. Sword-type magic weapons. Lu Ming looked around and began to look for sword-type magic weapons. Got it. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a battle sword. Only half of the sword was left, but it was enormous. It floated there for millions of miles. It's so big. How can I take it away? Lu Ming felt a headache coming on. He flew over and tried to put it into his storage ring, but he failed. I can only push it over. I hope I won't be discovered. Lu Ming thought helplessly. This broken magic weapon must have been of a very high level before it was broken. Even now, it was still emitting terrifying fluctuations. However, too many years had passed, and Lu Ming could still bear the remaining fluctuations. Chapter 4259. Lu Ming placed his palms on the back of the broken divine weapon and pushed it with all his might. Fortunately, this was the void and there were no obstacles. It was not too difficult to push it. He just needed to avoid the black holes in the universe. 2 days later, Lu Ming finally pushed the broken battle sword to the side of the black hole where the third demon sword was. Go! Lu Ming pushed with all his might and the broken battle sword flew into the black hole. Buzz! When the broken battle sword flew into the black hole, it seemed to be under great pressure and the sword began to vibrate. However, this battle sword was obviously of a very high level and its material was extraordinary. It was incomparably hard and successfully blocked the suction force of the black hole. Soon, the broken battle sword was not far from the third demon sword. Whoosh! The third demon sword opened its mouth and inhaled. A powerful suction force was generated and the broken battle sword flew quickly into its mouth. The sword that was originally 1,000,000 meters long quickly shrank and flew into the third demon sword's mouth and disappeared. The third demon sword's body swelled a little, but it disappeared immediately. A light flashed in its eyes and quickly disappeared. Not bad. This broken battle sword helped me recover a lot of strength. Unfortunately, it's not enough. If only I had 2 more of this type of battle sword, the third demon sword said. I'll continue to search. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and continued to head toward the previous battlefield. Very soon, he returned there. There were many broken divine weapons here. Many of them were incomparably huge and emitted terrifying fluctuations. If only Chocho was here, it would be great. Unfortunately, I can't take most of them away. Let's see if I can take some of the smaller ones. Lu Ming pondered and then began to search. He picked a very small divine weapon and activated the storage ring. This time, he successfully put away the broken divine weapon. This small one is really possible. I'll collect more. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Although this small divine weapon was not as extraordinary as the large ones, it was still not to be underestimated. It was definitely a rare treasure for Chocho. In the end, Lu Ming collected over 100 small broken divine weapons before he stopped. Then, Lu Ming found an incomparably huge broken sword and continued to push it towards the black hole where the third demon sword was. Nothing unusual happened along the way. When he returned to the black hole, he repeated the same trick and pushed the broken sword towards the third demon sword. After swallowing the third devil sword, Lu Ming returned to the battlefield. As long as there was another broken sword of the same level, it would be enough. Lu Ming continued his search. Suddenly, that is, Lu Ming's pupils shrank, because he sensed that there was a light shadow rapidly flying towards them from afar. Someone was coming. Lu Ming's heart raced. Those who could move freely here were most likely from the heavenly palace. Fortunately, the battlefield he was in was filled with huge corpses, broken divine weapons, and dilapidated palaces. Compared to them, he was as small as a speck of dust. The other party probably hadn't discovered him yet. However, he had to find a way to hide. When the other party got closer, they might discover him. What should I do? Where should I hide? Lu Ming's mind raced, and then his eyes swept across a huge corpse. It was a huge creature, like a lion, but it had no hair on its body, only scales. That's it. Lu Ming flew directly towards the lion-like creature, and then rushed into one of the scales. This kind of creature was too big, and a scale was incomparably huge, making it easy to hide. Roar! As soon as Lu Ming hid, he heard a roar. This is the sound of a dragon's roar. Is this the dragon clan? Why would there be a dragon clan here? Lu Ming was extremely surprised. The divine dragon clan was destroyed by the heavenly palace back then. Why would there be a dragon clan here? Could it be that they were also trapped here? And judging from the sound, the aura was extremely terrifying, as if it had reached the peak divine emperor realm. Lu Ming was very curious. He didn't dare to spread out his spiritual consciousness, but secretly stuck his head out to look. Outside, there was a war chariot. He could see a golden-haired middle-aged man sitting on the war chariot, obviously from the heavenly human clan. And in front of the war chariot, there were 9 divine dragons. These 9 divine dragons were used to pull the war chariot. Damn it, it seems that these 9 divine dragons were captured by the heavenly palace. They are all peak divine dragons, but they are used to pull the war chariot. What a great humiliation, Lu Ming thought to himself. However, he restrained his aura to the extreme. The war chariot was definitely very powerful, and was definitely a divine master. If he was discovered by the other party, he would be in trouble. Fortunately, the other party didn't care. He just glanced at him casually, and then drove the divine dragons away, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. However, Lu Ming didn't dare to relax, and still hid in the scales, waiting. After a full half an hour, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Of course, Lu Ming still didn't take action, but continued to wait. There were indeed heavenly palace patrollers in this cage. More than an hour passed, and the heavenly palace patrollers didn't appear again. They should have gone far away. Lu Ming then began to move. He found a huge broken divine sword, and then pushed it in the direction of the 3rd demon sword. Along the way, Lu Ming's spirit was highly tensed. It was fine when he didn't see the heavenly palace patrollers, but now that he saw them, Lu Ming was much more nervous, and he was constantly on guard, afraid that they would suddenly appear. Fortunately, Lu Ming managed to bring the broken divine sword to the 3rd demon sword without any mishap. "Senior, I just saw the heavenly palace patrollers. We have to speed up," Lu Ming said, and then pushed the huge broken divine sword into the black hole, and the 3rd demon sword swallowed it. After the 3rd demon sword swallowed the broken divine sword, a powerful aura suddenly burst out from its body, and its eyes shone with a terrifying sword chi. "My strength has recovered a lot, and it's enough to bring you in. Lu Ming, fly over," the 3rd demon sword said. "Okay." Lu Ming didn't hesitate at all, and directly rushed into the black hole. This made the 3rd demon sword's eyes flash with a hint of admiration. One must know that rushing into a black hole was very dangerous. If one was careless, there was a risk of death. However, Lu Ming was very decisive, without the slightest hesitation. This showed that Lu Ming was a decisive person, and the 3rd demon sword admired this kind of character. As soon as Lu Ming rushed into the black hole, he felt a terrible suction force enveloping him, pulling him into the center of the black hole. At the same time, this force was very terrifying, as if it wanted to tear Lu Ming's body to pieces. Lu Ming found that with his current strength, in front of this suction force, he was very small and insignificant. However, in the next moment, a gentle force surged and enveloped him. Suddenly, the suction force outside was blocked by this gentle force. Chapter 4260. A gentle force blocked the suction force of the universe's black hole. Lu Ming was safe and sound as he flew toward the center of the universe. Soon, he reached the side of the 3rd demon sword. He could see that the 3rd demon sword was very handsome. He was tall and sturdy, and there was a demonic look in his eyes. His body was shackled by 8 pitch-black chains. One of them was in his body, while the other extended into the depths of the universe's black hole. The energy of these chains seems to be similar to the void energy. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. When he got closer, he realized that these chains were also made of a kind of energy. It was very similar to the void energy, but many times more condensed. It looked like they were real. "You just need to cut off one of the chains, and I'll be able to escape. With your taboo energy, it shouldn't be difficult," the 3rd demon sword said. "All right, I'll do it now," Lu Ming said. He felt a sense of urgency. He wanted to save the 3rd demon sword as soon as possible. With the protection of the 3rd demon sword, he did not have to worry about the suction force of the black hole. He stepped forward and formed a battle sword with his taboo energy. Then, he slashed at one of the chains. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. The chain vibrated, and a mark appeared on it. "It's so hard, But it's effective. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as it was effective, he would be able to cut it off sooner or later. The third demon sword's eyes also lit up. He had been trapped here for a long time. Now, he finally saw hope of getting out. Clang, clang, clang. Lu Ming kept waving his sword and slashing at the chain. The chain kept vibrating and the mark became deeper and deeper, gradually sinking in. It seemed that it would not take long to cut it off. This was different from the chain that helped the Skyheart tribe refine the entrance. That kind of chain was very thick, and it needed to be completely refined, which took a lot of time. Although this kind of chain was very solid, it was not thick. Furthermore, he only needed to cut it off, not refine it. Therefore, the time needed was much shorter. Just as Lu Ming was slashing at the chains, a dragon's roar resounded from the battlefield where Lu Ming had collected the broken divine weapons. With a flash of light, 9 divine dragons pulling a war chariot appeared. The person sitting on the war chariot was the heavenly human tribe expert that Lu Ming had seen before. At this moment, the heavenly human powerhouse frowned slightly. He scanned the battlefield and muttered, "I keep feeling that something is wrong." What exactly is wrong? The celestial race stepped out, walked out of the war chariot, and began to patrol the nearby area. No, it's broken divine weapons. There are fewer broken divine weapons. Suddenly, a low growl came from the heavenly human tribe powerhouse. This battlefield had existed for countless years. There were broken palaces, broken planets, corpses, and broken divine weapons everywhere. Therefore, the last time he came, he didn't pay much attention to it and left after a glance. However, after he left, he still felt that something was amiss. Thus, after walking around in a circle, he returned to this place and carefully observed it. Finally, he discovered something. Many broken divine weapons were missing. The broken divine weapons wouldn't run away on their own. Someone must have taken them away. There were only a few patrollers in this cage. He knew all of them very well. It couldn't have been them who took them away. Who exactly is it? Could it be that the existence in a black hole has escaped? But how is that possible? The heavenly human powerhouse pondered, but he couldn't figure it out. Spread the news first. I'll look around. No matter who it is, they won't have a good ending. The heavenly human powerhouse's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He sent a few messages through the illusory divine jade, then stepped out and landed on the war chariot. Let's go. The heavenly human powerhouse shouted. The 9 divine dragons roared, twisted their bodies, and flew into the distance. Clang, 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 in the black hole where the third demon sword was, Lu Ming continued to slash with all his might. After his continuous slashes, the chain was finally about to be cut off. Only a thin layer was left. Soon, the third demon sword was excited and expectant. How many years had it been trapped? He couldn't even count. It had been at least a few dozen stellar years. It was a torture to be trapped alone in a black hole that never saw the light of day for such a long distance. Not many people in the world could withstand such torture. Many people would go crazy, but he had withstood it. Now, he finally saw hope. He was finally going to be free. Oh no. Suddenly, the third demon sword's expression changed. He looked into the distance. He heard the roar of a dragon. Then, 9 divine dragons flew over quickly with a war chariot. The patrollers have been discovered. Lu Ming, you have to work harder. Otherwise, both of us will die, the third demon sword said. It's that guy. Lu Ming also noticed the patrollers. His face was very serious. He forced out all the power in his body and slashed at the chain. Clang, clang. The last layer of the chain was even thinner. It was about to break. The patrollers also noticed this scene. Shocking murderous intent burst out of his eyes. Kid, where did you come from? Do you want to die? Kill. The patrollers shouted. They stood on the war chariot, holding a sky halberd. The power of heaven burst out and the halberd slashed at the black hole. Suddenly, an incomparably huge halberd condensed and slashed at the center of the black hole. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even through the black hole, Lu Ming could feel the horror of this attack. This person's combat strength is so strong. He's definitely not an ordinary divine master. His combat strength is probably close to the level of the Lord of Heaven, Lu Ming thought in his mind. The battle sword in his hand did not stop slashing at all. In the blink of an eye, the huge halberd slashed at them. However, this was a black hole. No matter how strong this person was, his attack was still affected by the black hole. The closer he was to Lu Ming, the weaker his attack became. Sword whistle. The third demon's sword shouted and let out a long whistle. A black light spurted out of his mouth. This black light turned into a sword light. The sword light was shocking and flew out. Boom! The black sword light collided with the halberd, causing an earth-shattering explosion. However, the energy was quickly swallowed up by the black hole. The patroller's attack was blocked. The third demon's sword's body swayed, shaking the chains and making clanging sounds. Lu Ming, work harder. This guy's cultivation is limited. A part of his attack was swallowed by the black hole. I can barely block it. If 1 or 2 more people come, we'll be finished. The third demon's sword shouted. At the same time, he used all the power he could to resist. Unfortunately, he was sealed. He could only use a little of his power. In the face of such a situation, he was not very confident. I've already used all my strength. You have to hold on. Soon, we'll succeed. Lu Ming shouted and continued to slash at the chains. Chapter 4261. You want to escape? Don't even think about it. Third demon's sword, I didn't expect you to not give up after being locked up for so many years. Today, I will kill you. The patroller shouted and continued to attack. Huge halberds condensed and slashed at the third demon's sword and Lu Ming. He did not dare to rush into the black hole. The black hole was too dangerous. Even if he rushed in with his strength, it would be very dangerous. Moreover, his strength would drop sharply. At that time, it would not be the third demon's sword or Lu Ming who would die, but him. Only by attacking outside the black hole could he affect the third demon's sword. Then, when the other helpers arrived, the third demon's sword would be dead. Sword cry. Demon's sword slays gods. The third demon's sword roared. He could not move his hands and feet, but endless sword chi rushed out of his body and turned into terrifying sword light, colliding with the patroller's attack. However, the third demon's sword was having a hard time resisting. After all, he was sealed, and the power he could use was limited. After a long time, his strength would not be enough. Moreover, the third demon's sword had to protect Lu Ming from being swallowed by the black hole. This also required a lot of power. His power was scattered, and he was even more vulnerable. At this moment, the gentle power that enveloped Lu Ming's body trembled. Lu Ming felt the suction force of the black hole seeping in bit by bit. His body felt like it was being cut by a knife. Soon, Lu Ming roared in his heart. Ignoring the pain, he crazily burst out with forbidden power and kept slashing. Buzz. Suddenly, the sound of a chain vibrating was heard. Broken. This chain was finally cut by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and the third demon's sword was even more ecstatic. The seal is no longer complete. Watch me break the seal and kill everyone. Ha ha ha. The third demon's sword laughed crazily like a demon. Boom. A powerful aura burst out from his body. Even the black hole in the universe trembled. Lu Ming did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the black hole in the universe was somewhat distorted. Clang. Clang. The remaining 7 chains trembled violently, swaying and emitting unpleasant sounds. Outside the black hole, the patrolman's expression changed drastically. Fear flashed in the depths of his eyes. He was well aware of the third demon's sword's strength. He was extremely terrifying. He was one of the taboo's proudest disciples. Countless people from the heavenly palace had died at his hands during the Great War. If the third demon's sword were to break free, he would be no match for the third demon's sword. He would probably be killed by the third demon's sword. However, he could not retreat at this moment. If he retreated, the heavenly palace would not let him off. Furthermore, the third demon's sword was still trapped. He might still have a chance. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared on the other side of the black hole. This was also a member of the celestial race. He was middle-aged and had a head of golden hair. He wore a purple-gold battle armor and had an incomparably powerful aura. The patrolman from before was overjoyed. His helper had arrived. The third demon sword is about to break free. Let's go all out and kill him. The patrolman from before roared. Kill. The experts of the celestial race who came from behind shouted and directly attacked. Terrifying attacks shot towards the black hole. This person's combat strength was also incomparably terrifying. He was even stronger than the patrolman from before. Even among the divine masters, he was considered an expert. The patrolman from before also attacked with all his might. The combined power of the two experts was even more terrifying. However, the third demon sword's face revealed a ferocious expression. Terrifying sword light constantly rushed out from his body. These sword light converged into a huge demon sword and slashed horizontally. Bang! 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 The attacks of the two experts of the celestial race were directly split in half. They could not even get close to the third demon sword and Lu Ming. The gentle power on Lu Ming's body became even stronger. The power of the universe's black hole could no longer affect him in the slightest. Break for me. The third demon sword roared. He waved his arms and shook his legs. His entire body twisted like a divine dragon. Bang! 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 The remaining 7 chains constantly vibrated and emitted a dazzling light. However, the 8 chains were a single entity. The power of the seal combined with the power of the black hole formed a complete seal. Now that one of the chains was broken, it was no longer complete. The sealing power was much weaker than before. Under the third demon sword struggle, the 7 chains shook violently. Crack! In the next moment, a cracking sound could be heard from the chains as cracks began to appear on them. Outside the black hole, the expressions of the two experts of the celestial race changed drastically. The third demon sword was about to break free. This is not good. If this continues, we are no match for him. This matter is no longer something we can solve. We have to inform Lord Heavenly Master. The patrolman from before said. I have already informed Lord Heavenly Master before I came. Let's hold on for a while. When Lord Heavenly Master arrives, the matter will naturally be resolved. The burly man from the celestial race in purple and gold armor behind him said. That's good. Kill. The patrolman from before shouted and continued to attack. An existence of the third demon sword's level was no longer something they could deal with. The only thing they could do now was to delay the third demon sword as much as possible before he broke free. Once Lord Heavenly Master arrived, the third demon sword would not be able to cause any trouble. However, the third demon sword's aura was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if he had turned into a peerless demon sword. Every move and every part of his body had terrifying sword light rushing out. A casual attack could block the attacks of the two experts of the celestial race. And he used even more strength to break free from the seal. What powerful strength! What cultivation level is the third demon sword at? It seems to be comparable to the patriarch of the celestial race who attacked the primordial divine lake. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. The patriarch of the celestial race who captured him back then was earth-shattering and had left a deep impression on him. The third demon's sword gave him the feeling that he was no weaker than the patriarch of the celestial race. And he was only Xian Yanqing's senior brother in his previous life. Then how strong was the taboo of Xian Yanqing's father in his previous life? Crack, crack. More and more cracks appeared on the chains. In the end, they were densely packed together. Bang. In the next moment, one of the chains with the most cracks finally could not bear it and exploded with a bang. Boom. As the chain exploded, the third demon sword's aura became even stronger. It rushed out like a volcanic eruption. The chains could not bear it anymore. Bang. 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 The remaining 6 chains exploded one after another. In the blink of an eye, all the chains had exploded. The third demon sword had broken free. Swoosh. A terrifying sword light rushed out from his body, as if it was going to split the black hole open, causing the black hole to constantly distort. Oh no, he has broken free. Run. The patrolman's expression changed drastically. He turned around and tried to escape. It's too late to leave now. A cold voice came from the third demon sword's mouth. Chapter 4262. At this moment, the third demon sword's long hair was dancing in the wind. He was like a peerless beast that had just been released from its cage. He waved his hand and took Lu Ming with him. He took a step forward and broke through the suction force of the black hole. Kill. Immediately afterward, he slashed at the void with his bare hands. Two terrifying sword gleams slashed toward the two heavenly human powerhouses at an incredible speed. Anyway, given Lu Ming's eyesight, he could not see it clearly at all. Oh no! The two heavenly human powerhouses' faces changed. They realized that they had been locked on and could not escape. They could only fight with all their might. The two heavenly human powerhouses unleashed their full strength. They pushed their combat strength to the limit and attacked with their strongest attack. At the same time, they set up layers of defense on their bodies. There were at least 100 layers of defense, hoping to block the attack of the third demon sword. However, when the sword light of the third demon sword slashed down, their attacks and defenses were completely vulnerable. Puff! Puff! With a flash of sword light, the two heavenly human experts were split into two halves from the center of their eyebrows. Their eyes were still wide open, revealing a look of disbelief and unwillingness. However, their life auras had already disappeared without a trace. They were dead. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The two experts of the heavenly human tribe were genuine divine master realm existences. Moreover, they were top experts in the divine master realm. Even if they were compared to the Lord of Heaven, they were not much weaker. However, in front of the third demon sword, they were as weak as babies. They were easily killed by the sword. Was this the strength of the third demon sword? It had definitely surpassed the divine master realm. Let's go. We need to find a weak point in the space and break through it to get out, the third demon sword said. Senior, let's take the 9 divine dragons with us, Lu Ming said. The divine dragon clan was already very weak. The 9 divine dragons were all peak emperor gods. If they were brought back to the dragon clan's mother planet, the dragon clan's strength would increase by a lot. Lu Ming had an affinity with dragons. He had a special feeling for the dragon race. If he could save them, he would do his best to save them. These 9 divine dragons have all reached the peak of the God Emperor realm. Furthermore, they have been honing themselves for many years. The chances of them becoming divine masters are pretty high. Bringing them out will also increase our strength. The third demon sword nodded and waved his hand. Several sword lights flew out and slashed at the 9 dragons. The bindings on their bodies were broken and the 9 dragons regained their freedom. Once the 9 dragons regained their freedom, their bodies shrank and returned to the third demon sword side. They turned into 9 middle-aged men and bowed to the third demon sword. Thank you, Third Origin Venerate, for saving us. You're welcome. I was very familiar with Ao Qian of your dragon clan back then. We're all family. The third devil sword Dao. Senior, there's one more thing. The people from the Skyheart race are trapped in the heavenly prison. Should we bring them along? Lu Ming asked. No, we're still in danger. If the heavenly venerates from the heavenly palace come, we won't be able to escape. We can't bring more people with us. Let's go first. The third demon sword shook his head and waved his hand. He brought Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons with him and broke through space. The third demon sword's speed was too fast. In a few flashes, a large number of black holes flashed past. In the next moment, they arrived in a part of the starry sky. The third demon sword's eyes were like lightning as he scanned his surroundings. The space here is relatively weak. I'm going to break the space here. The third demon sword attacked before he could finish his sentence. He stretched out a palm and clenched it in the void. Suddenly, the boundless energy in the surrounding area gathered in the third demon sword's hand and turned into a pitch-black demon sword. Whoosh! The third devil sword slashed out, causing the space in front of it to vibrate violently. The space trembled like water waves. The space here is really terrifying. No wonder it can be used as a prison for divine masters. Even those above the divine master realm are imprisoned here. It's unbelievably stable. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. In the primitive universe, with his cultivation, he could easily break open the space. However, with the third demon sword's cultivation, it was actually so difficult for him to break open the space here. This was the weakest point of the space, but the third demon sword's attack only caused ripples in the space. This showed how stable the space here was. Given the strength of the third demon sword, if it were in the primitive universe, it could easily cut a star river into two. It could even cut several star rivers and destroy countless stars. Break! The third demon sword shouted. His body surged with terrifying fluctuations. More sword lights formed and slashed at the void in front of him. The vibrations in the void ahead became even more intense, and the number of ripples increased as well. Slowly, a crack began to appear. Soon. At this rate, the space here would soon be completely connected and they would be able to leave. However, at this moment, the third demon sword's expression suddenly changed. He did not continue to attack the void in front of him. Instead, he suddenly turned around and slashed at the void in the distance. At this moment, a golden long spear suddenly appeared in the void and pierced toward Lu Ming and the others. However, the sword gleam of the third demon sword slashed out and slashed toward the long spear. Clang! With an earth-shattering boom, the long spear flew out and was caught by an old man. It was an elder from the heavenly human tribe. His hair was a little dry, but his body was still burly. He was not the heavenly human tribe ancestor that Lu Ming had met last time. This one was much younger. He was wearing a long golden robe, and a terrifying aura emanated from him. Heavenly Master, the Heavenly Master of the Heavenly Palace. A divine dragon at the peak of the divine emperor realm exclaimed, his face pale. Heavenly Master, is that a title? Lu Ming muttered to himself. Over gods, heavenly masters, and source venerables. The titles he had heard seemed to be for existences that surpassed the divine master realm. Lu Ming guessed that these titles were just titles for existences that surpassed the divine master realm. They were not the names of realms. Third demon sword, I did not expect you to be able to break out of the seal. This is really beyond my expectations. I originally wanted to suppress you to death and let you die in regret, but now it seems that I have no choice but to kill you. The heavenly master held the spear in his hand and stepped on the air. His robe fluttered in the wind and his aura became more and more terrifying. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons felt that it was difficult to breathe. Moreover, the third demon sword had blocked most of the aura for them. Otherwise, they would have been reduced to ashes under this aura. I'm afraid you can't kill me alone, the third demon sword said coldly. The third demon sword said coldly. His aura continued to rise and he seemed to have turned into a peerless demon sword. Chapter 4263. The third demon sword revealed its sharpness as if it had transformed into a peerless demon sword. Bang! The third demon sword took a step forward. The void beneath his feet shook violently as countless sword chi filled the air. At the same time, a huge sword condensed in his palm and slashed down at the heavenly palace's heavenly venerate. The sword instantly traversed hundreds of millions of miles of void and slashed at the heavenly venerate. Heavenly annihilation, the heavenly venerate said coldly. The long spear in his hand continued to spin like a drill. A wisp of grey energy burst out from the center of the long spear. As the long spear spun, the grey energy expanded rapidly. It rushed toward the third demon sword like a grey fog. The grey fog-like energy was extremely terrifying. Wherever it passed, the void seemed to be corroded. Boom! The third demon sword's attack collided with the heavenly venerate's attack. The sword light from the third demon sword vibrated continuously as traces of corrosion appeared on its surface. In the end, the sword light exploded with a loud bang. The grey fog was one of the 4 strongest heavenly powers of the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly annihilation energy. The heavenly annihilation energy was said to be able to obliterate everything. It was filled with destructive power and was extremely terrifying. However, the heavenly venerate's heavenly annihilation energy was also blocked by the third demon sword. The two of them were evenly matched in this exchange. Third demon sword, your strength is only SOSO. Let's see how many of my moves you can block. Heavenly annihilation, heavenly punishment. The heavenly venerate roared. He held the long spear in his right hand and thrust it forward. This time, the heavenly annihilation energy was more condensed. It condensed into a spear light and pierced toward the third demon sword. In addition, his left hand burst out white lightning, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. This was the heavenly punishment energy. The heavenly venerate used two types of heavenly powers at the same time to launch a terrifying attack on the third demon sword. If my strength was not at its peak, I would definitely kill an old fellow like you. It's not like I haven't killed you before, the third demon sword said coldly. However, his expression was very solemn. As he had said, he had been sealed for so many years. Although he had swallowed a few broken swords brought by Lu Ming, his strength had not recovered to its peak. This heavenly venerate was extremely powerful, and he had no choice but to focus. He no longer cared about breaking through the void to escape. The third demon sword raised its strength to the limit. Sword light flashed as it shot towards the Empyrean. The two strongest powerhouses began a battle of the peak. Boom! Boom! A huge explosion occurred in that area. The two of them continued to fight. In the blink of an eye, it was unknown how many moves they had exchanged. The heavenly venerates venerate. The spatial crack that had been torn open by the third devil sword had automatically healed. Lu Ming furrowed his brows tightly, feeling somewhat anxious. Heavenly God. If the heavenly God. 1. Lu Ming had just thought of this when he saw a few rainbow lights flying toward him at high speed from afar. Heavenly God of. There were a total of 3 figures. All of them were heavenly venerate. The heavenly palace's heavenly venerate had arrived. They had most likely set off with the heavenly venerate. However, the heavenly venerate was too fast and had arrived first. The heavenly venerate had only just arrived. All of you, attack. Kill the 9 divine dragons and that boy. The heavenly venerate's voice rang out. Yes. The heavenly venerate took the order and charged at Lu Ming and the others. Don't even think about it. The third demon sword was shocked. He attacked with all his might, wanting to help. However, the heavenly venerate would not let him do as he wished. You should be careful of yourself. The heavenly venerate said coldly. The heavenly punishment and heavenly extermination powers were activated to a terrifying extent. They bombarded the third demon sword, preventing him from attacking. The third demon sword was not at his peak. He was slightly weaker than the heavenly venerate. If he attacked the heavenly venerate would definitely take the opportunity to severely injure him. Once he was injured, they would be in even more danger. He has the forbidden body, Lu Ming. If you kill him, you won't be able to get the forbidden power. The third demon sword roared. He had no other choice. Lu Ming was his junior sister's reincarnated husband. He could not watch as Lu Ming was killed. If Lu Ming was killed, his junior sister would not let him off. That was why he had shouted that Lu Ming had the forbidden body. He knew that the forbidden power was very important to the heavenly palace. If these people knew that Lu Ming had the forbidden body, they would not kill Lu Ming. At least, they would not kill Lu Ming for the time being. Sure enough, the heavenly venerate and the heavenly venerate were shocked when they heard the third demon sword's words. Forbidden body? Lu Ming. Isn't Lu Ming on the dragon clan's mother planet? I only know that the other forbidden body, Mu Yun, has been captured by our clan and locked in the heavenly prison. This person is not Lu Ming, it's Mu Yun, the heavenly venerate discussed quickly. For a moment, they were confused. I know. Mu Yun is Lu Ming, and Lu Ming is Mu Yun. I was wondering how there could be so much forbidden power. Now it seems that we have been deceived, the heavenly venerate said coldly. After all, he had lived for countless years. He was cunning and meticulous. In an instant, he had deduced many things. Lu Ming could not help but smile bitterly. Originally, the heavenly palace thought that Mu Yun and Lu Ming were 2 different people. The third demon sword's roar was tantamount to exposing his identity. However, he was now on the opposite side of the heavenly palace. It was a situation where he would fight to the death. Moreover, Autumn Moon had left the heavenly palace. Even if he was exposed, it did not matter. He had used the alias Mu Yun because he wanted to sneak into the heavenly palace. Now, there was no need. Moreover, now was not the time to worry about the name. The 3 heavenly venerate masters of the heavenly palace were about to arrive. Fight to the death, the 9 divine dragons shouted. Their faces were filled with determination. They had been enslaved for dozens of stellar years. Their hearts were filled with endless anger. Compared to being enslaved, they would rather die in battle. However, in the past, they could not die even if they wanted to. At this moment, they were fearless. They planned to fight to the death with the heavenly venerate masters of the heavenly palace. Seniors of the dragon clan, why do you need to make such a pointless sacrifice? I have a way to deal with them. All of you, back off and stay away from me, Lu Ming shouted. Then, he rushed forward toward the 3 heavenly venerate masters of the heavenly palace. The 9 divine dragons were stunned. Not to mention them, even the third demon sword and the Empyrean were taken aback. Lu Ming had taken the initiative to rush toward the 3 heavenly venerate masters. Was he not walking into a trap? Could it be that he still had some trump cards in his hands? The 2 heavenly venerate masters thought of this. Forbidden body, Lu Ming, suppress him. One of the heavenly venerate masters shouted coldly. He stretched out a hand and grabbed at Lu Ming. Chapter 4264. One of the divine masters attacked and a huge palm grabbed at Lu Ming. The palm covered a radius of 1,000,000 miles, covering the sky and the sun. It contained terrifying power. Even if Lu Ming broke through to the God the Archrealm, he would not be able to escape, let alone Lu Ming who was only at the Divine Emperor realm. However, Lu Ming did not intend to use his cultivation to resist. He took out the purple copper coffin. Now, he could only rely on the purple copper coffin. After taking out the purple copper coffin, Lu Ming pushed the coffin lid without hesitation. Catcher. The coffin lid was pushed open and there was a gap. A terrifying aura was emitted from the gap. Catcher. Lu Ming continued to push with all his might. The gap in the coffin lid widened and the horrifying aura became even more terrifying. Even the divine masters felt their hair stand on end and they felt a chill in their hearts. What is this? One of the divine masters asked in a grave voice. Who cares what it is? He is only at the divine emperor realm. What could he have? Suppress him. The divine master who had attacked earlier shouted and continued to attack. The huge palm continued to grab at Lu Ming. Roar. At this time, an earth-shattering roar came from the purple copper coffin. It was filled with an ancient aura and was extremely violent. Then, a palm stretched out from the purple copper coffin. It was a palm covered with scales. It grabbed one side of the purple copper coffin and pushed with all its might. The gap became bigger. Roar. The violent roar was heard again. The palm covered with scales stretched out and quickly became bigger. It grabbed at the divine master's palm. With a loud bang, the palm formed by the divine master shattered. The palm covered with scales did not stop and continued to grab at the divine master. This aura, it is the primordial divine spirit. The divine master exclaimed. He quickly took out a combat sword and gathered all his strength into it. He slashed out with all his might. The other 2 divine masters also attacked with all their might. 3 terrifying attacks slashed at the palm covered with scales and collided violently with the palm. Boom! Boom! With 3 consecutive explosions, the scale-covered palm was blocked. It quickly shrank and retreated. However, the attacks of the 3 divine masters were all destroyed, and their bodies were forced to retreat. In an instant, they had retreated hundreds of millions of miles. Their faces were pale, and blood spurted from their mouths. They had all suffered heavy injuries. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. As for the 9 peak Emperor God divine dragons, they were dumbfounded. What was the purple copper coffin that Lu Ming took out? A palm could actually reach out from inside, and it was extremely powerful. It could severely injure 3 Divine Master Realm experts with a single move. Just then, the strong cultivator from the Heavenly Palace had shouted that it was a primitive godly spirit. Could it be that there was a primitive godly spirit sleeping in the copper coffin? Roar. At that moment, another roar came from within the purple copper coffin. This time, 2 arms stretched out from within the purple copper coffin. One arm grabbed the lid of the coffin, while the other grabbed the body of the coffin. With a push, the distance between the lid and the body of the coffin increased. Then, a figure stepped out of the purple copper coffin. This is... Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was the first time he had seen a living being step out of a purple copper coffin. In the past, it had only stretched out one arm. This living being was covered in scales and had a burly body. As soon as it stepped out of the purple copper coffin, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it turned into an incomparably huge figure that stood between the heavens and the earth. It was even bigger than the stars. A primitive, godly spirit. The creature that had walked out of the purple copper coffin was clearly a primitive, godly spirit. This primitive, godly spirit's aura was too strong. It was as vast as an abyss and unfathomable. Just its aura alone was enough to make the void tremble. Its 2 eyes scanned the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. The 3 Heavenly Palace Divine Masters trembled. This is a Master God-level primitive godly spirit. It can't be wrong. It really is a Master God-level primitive godly spirit. Oh no, run. The 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace screamed in horror and frantically retreated. Judging by its aura, it was clearly a Master God-level primitive godly spirit. This level of being was extremely terrifying. It was the true pinnacle of the primitive universe. It was at the same level as the Celestial Masters from the Heavenly Palace. This kind of being was not something they could deal with. If it used its full strength, it could kill them with a slap. In the face of such a being, they could only run. However, the primitive godly spirit that had walked out of the purple copper coffin had already made his move. He took a step forward and his huge body quickly approached the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. He slapped down. Rumble. A terrifying force surged toward the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. There was no other technique. There was only an extremely powerful and violent force. Extreme force. In the face of this force, the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace had nowhere to run. No, help. Celestial Master, help. Celestial Master, save us. The 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace cried for help in horror. However, at this moment, the 3rd demon sword had used its full strength to block the Celestial Master. Even if he wanted to save them, it was too late. Bang! 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 No matter how the 3 Divine Masters of the Heavenly Palace tried to resist, it was to no avail. When this force pressed down on them, their bodies exploded and their souls were annihilated. The 3 powerful Divine Masters were killed in an instant. Damn it! The Celestial Master roared. Kill. After killing the 3 Divine Masters, the primitive godly spirit in the purple copper coffin roared angrily. He glanced at the Heavenly Palace's Celestial Master with a strong murderous intent. Then, the primitive godly spirit charged toward the Celestial Master. His huge fist was like a star as it blasted toward the Heavenly Palace's Celestial Master. The powerful force made the Celestial Master's face turn serious. He thrust out his long spear, and a heavenly extermination force pierced toward the primitive godly spirit. The 2 of them collided. Kill. 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 The primitive godly spirit in the purple copper coffin kept shouting. His murderous intent surged as he stepped forward and attacked the Celestial Master. His 2 fists punched out consecutively. Hey! At this moment, Lu Ming saw a strange scene. There was a silk thread at the back of the primitive godly spirit's head. The other end of the silk thread was connected to the purple copper coffin. This made Lu Ming very surprised. Why was the primitive godly spirit connected to a silk thread? It looked strange, as if it was being controlled by someone. At this moment, the primitive godly spirit was fighting with the Celestial Master. The 3rd demon sword quickly retreated to Lu Ming's side. It did not join forces with the primitive godly spirit to fight the celestial master. The heavenly palace's celestial master was not easy to kill. Moreover, it was not the time to kill him. The first thing they needed to do was to leave this place. If they were delayed because of the battle with the celestial master, more experts from the heavenly palace would come, and it would be more troublesome. Chapter 4265. Buzz. Dazzling sword light burst out from the third demon sword's hand as it continued to slash at the void, opening up the passage again. The battle between the primitive divine spirit and the celestial master of the heavenly palace was extremely intense. There was no doubt that this primitive divine spirit was at the level of a master god, which was at the same level as the celestial master of the heavenly palace. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. Even if the other side wanted to stop the third demon sword, it could not do so. In this way, the third demon sword could attack with all its might, concentrating on breaking the void. Streaks of terrifying sword light slashed out continuously, causing the void to ripple like water. Soon, a new crack was slashed out. Whoosh! Whoosh! The crack was expanding. A few minutes later, the crack had become extremely large. Fortunately, no other experts from the heavenly palace came during this process. Break for me. The third demon's sword roared as it slashed out a shocking sword light. The sword light slashed at the crack. The crack was quickly split open and penetrated. Wisps of starlight filled the air. A familiar aura also came through. It was the aura of the universe. It was broken. The third demon's sword finally tore the void at this weak point of the space and opened up a passage. Outside was the primitive universe. Let's go. The third demon's sword waved its hand and rushed toward the crack with Lu Ming and the 9 deities. The next moment, they appeared in the universe. That's right. Lu Ming took a deep breath. He had finally returned to the primitive universe. Due to Lu Ming's movement, he dragged the purple copper coffin. At the back of the primordial god's head, there was a silk thread that was connected to the purple copper coffin. At this moment, it was pulling the primordial god. The primordial god could not help but retreat continuously, being pulled in the direction of Lu Ming and the rest. Roar. The primitive divine spirit let out an unwilling roar. Its body rapidly shrank and finally turned into a rainbow light, rushing into the purple copper coffin and disappearing. With a clang, the lid of the purple copper coffin was closed again. The terrifying aura also disappeared without a trace. Don't even think about leaving. The celestial venerables from the heavenly palace shouted and rushed over. They wanted to rush through the spatial rift and continue to attack Lu Ming and the others. However, how could the third demon's sword allow him to succeed? Whoosh! The third demon's sword slashed out a shocking sword light. It passed through the crack and slashed towards the Empyrean. The Empyrean had no choice but to stop and block. As for the crack, it was rapidly recovering. The space here was extremely stable and difficult to break. Once it was broken, the recovery speed was astonishing. It was far from comparable to the ordinary space of the primitive universe. The third demon's sword continued to attack, blocking the heavenly palace on the other side. The crack was quickly mending and shrinking. In less than half a minute, the crack had completely disappeared. Damn it, the celestial lord in the heavenly palace roared. Even though he had lived for countless years, he was still incomparably irritable. This time, not only had the third demon's sword escaped, but the forbidden body had also escaped. Both of these were very important. The third demon's sword was very powerful. At its peak, it could kill existences of the same level. The forbidden body was even more important. Once it grew up, it would be a great enemy of the heavenly palace. Another reason was that it was even more disadvantageous for the heavenly palace. However, both of them had managed to escape right under his nose. Also, what exactly is that copper coffin? It is definitely not as simple as a primitive divine spirit. There is a familiar aura in it. The celestial lord in the heavenly palace fell into deep thought. His face became more and more solemn. He did not continue to pursue. Instead, he left in a flash and went to discuss with the other experts in the heavenly palace. On the other side, the third demon's sword did not stop. It took Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons and flew quickly in a direction. Everyone from the Skyheart clan, I am sorry this time. However, I swear that one day, I will open the Heavenly Palace's celestial prison and let you out. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the celestial prison and swore in his heart. Due to the special situation this time, they could only leave first. However, he would remember the kindness of the Skyheart clan. In the future, he would try his best to find a way to save the people of the Skyheart clan. Senior, where are we going next? After adjusting his mood, Lu Ming asked the 3rd demon sword. Don't call me senior. Since you are junior sister's husband, we are of the same generation. You can call me 3rd senior brother. The 3rd demon sword path. 3rd senior brother, Lu Ming added. Now, I will take you to the cosmic ruins. Other than there, no other place is safe. The 3rd demon sword path. Cosmic ruins? What is that place? Lu Ming was puzzled. This was not the first time he had heard of this name. Previously, Fei Huang and Ao Qian took the primordial divine lake and the dragon clan's mother planet to the cosmic ruins. Therefore, he was very curious about the cosmic ruins. You should know from the name that it is a ruin. However, it is not a ruin left behind by this era. It is a ruin left behind by the previous era, the 3rd demon sword said. Previous era? What do you mean? The more Lu Ming listened, the more puzzled he became. The word era involved a lot of things. Lu Ming couldn't understand it. Everything in this world will change and have a lifespan. No matter how strong one's cultivation base is, there will be a day when they will fall. Even the primitive universe will wither and end one day. The primitive universe we are in now has withered and ended once. It experienced destruction and was born again. This is called an era. The era before the destruction is called the previous era. The current primitive universe is the new era. The cosmic ruins are the ruins left behind by the previous era. The 3rd demon sword explained. What? Lu Ming gawked and tongue-tied. The time and era involved in this matter were simply too long ago. The primitive universe had 2 eras. One was the incipient God era and the other was the Heavenly Palace era. The incipient God era was formed after the universe was created. Apparently, the previous era was much older and more ancient than the incipient God era. According to the information we have, the area of the universe in the previous era was much bigger than the current primitive universe. However, no one knows why, but at the end of the previous era, it experienced a world-destroying war. That world was blown up, heading toward the end of the world. All the creatures were killed and disappeared. Then, after a new evolution, it evolved into the current untainted universe. However, only a part of it has evolved into the current untainted universe. A larger part of it is still in ruins. There, you can still feel the traces left by the destructive war of the last era. The 3rd demon sword explained. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were bewildered. It was the first time they had heard about this. It seemed like this world had many secrets that they didn't know. Chapter 4266. The 3rd demon sword's speed was too fast. In just a short while, he had already led Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons across an unknown number of galaxies. They were already far away from the Heavenly Palace's prison. At this time, even if the other party wanted to pursue them, they would not be able to find them. At this time, the 3rd demon sword stopped with Lu Ming. Look. After stopping, the 3rd demon sword waved his hand and a 3-dimensional picture appeared in the void. In a corner of this picture, there were specks of starlight that looked very dazzling. Apart from this corner, the other areas were all grey and hazy. It could be seen that the places with starlight only occupied about 1% of the volume. The grey areas occupied 99% of the volume. This is the map of the current primitive universe and the universe ruins. The places with starlight are the current primitive universe, and the grey areas are the universe ruins. The 3rd demon sword said. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were dumbfounded. The universe ruins are so big? Lu Ming asked tongue-tied. Yes, in fact, the universe ruins and the current primitive universe are the total area of the entire universe. The current primitive universe only occupies 1% of the area. The other 99% are all universe ruins. That is to say, the universe of the last era was truly vast and boundless. It was 100 times larger than the current untainted universe. According to the information we have now, the universe of the last era did not use planets as a unit of measurement like the present one. At that time, there was only one continent in the entire universe, and it was called the Great Desolation Continent. It was a huge and boundless continent, and there were countless creatures living on it. Later on, there was a world-shaking war, and the vast and boundless continent was destroyed, turning into countless small continents that drifted to various places in the universe. Some of the continents evolved into different planets and gave birth to a new era, which is the current primitive universe. But most of the territories did not evolve. They still maintained the appearance of the last era, which is the current universe ruins. The third demon's sword continued to explain. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were completely dumbfounded. The amount of information was so huge that it subverted their worldview. They needed time to digest it slowly. In the universe of the previous epoch, there was only one continent called the prehistoric continent. Then, the prehistoric continent was blown apart and turned into fragments. A small portion of the fragments evolved into planets, which were the current prehistoric universe. The countless planets in the primitive universe were actually evolved from some of the fragments of the primitive continent. And it only occupied 1% of the total area. How big was the primitive continent of the last era? It was beyond the limit of their imagination. After a long while, Lu Ming and the other divine dragons reacted. According to the exploration of the predecessors, the last era was the real golden age of cultivation. There were countless experts like the sand of the Ganges. Naturally, there were also countless treasures left behind, which attracted countless top experts to explore. Of course, the universe ruins are also very dangerous. I won't tell you the details. You can understand it in detail when you arrive at the universe ruins. Let's continue our journey. After saying that, the third demon's sword waved his hand again. A wave of energy swept up Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons and took them to continue flying towards the universe ruins. By the way, Lu Ming, the copper coffin you took out before seemed to be very extraordinary. I couldn't see through it. How did you get it? The third demon's sword asked as they flew. He was very curious about the copper coffin. I got it in an ancient place. I don't know its origin. I guess it's the coffin of a primitive divine spirit, the one who attacked us before, Lu Ming said. No. The third demon's sword shook his head and said, I don't think it's that simple. You should have noticed that there was a thread behind the primitive divine spirit. It seemed to be controlled. It's very strange. The third demon's sword frowned and fell into deep thought. After a while, he said, in short, I feel that this copper coffin is very extraordinary. I can't see through it. You have to keep it well. It may be of great use in the future. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. Of course, he would keep the purple copper coffin. Ever since he obtained the purple copper coffin, it had saved his life many times. Of course, he would keep it well. Lu Ming, tell me about you and junior sister. Where did she reincarnate to? How did you meet? Junior sister used to be very arrogant. How did she fall in love with you? If you don't want others to hear, you can send me a message. The third demon's sword changed the topic from the copper coffin to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The word gossip was written in his eyes. Lu Ming was speechless. In the end, Lu Ming told the story of him and Xian Yanqing. The third demon's sword was filled with emotion. He said that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were young, but they had experienced a lot. According to what you said, I guess junior sister should be cultivating in the ruins of the universe. There are some unique cultivation conditions in the ruins of the universe, and her progress will be very fast. The third demon sword path. So, we can go to the ruins of the universe and see Xiaoqing? Lu Ming was overjoyed. He didn't expect that the information about Xian Yanqing that he couldn't find would come from the mouth of the third demon sword. I'm not sure. I can only say that it's very likely. Anyway, we'll know when we get there. The third demon sword path. The third demon sword's speed was too fast. As time passed, the third demon sword seemed to be slowly recovering, becoming stronger and faster. 2 days later, they had crossed an unknown number of galaxies and star fields. Gradually, the starry sky became desolate. Previously, they could see a planet with a casual flight. Later, they often flew a long distance and couldn't see a planet. Later, it was simply pitch black. There was nothing. There were no life planets, resource planets, or even stars. The void fell into darkness. The third demon sword told them that they had reached the edge of the current primitive universe. After a while, they would reach the ruins of the universe. Sure enough, not long after, the void lit up again. Then, Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons opened their eyes. They saw several huge continents floating in the void. These continents were very vast, no smaller than a life planet. Moreover, the continents themselves were emitting traces of light. Chapter 4267. The light they saw was emitted by these continents. They flew closer and saw that the continents were barren. There seemed to be no living creatures. Apart from a few special life forms, there are almost no other life forms in the entire universe ruins. Moreover, there are no planets in the universe ruins. There are only fragments of continents. These few fragments are still considered small. Some of them are boundless, hundreds or even thousands of times larger than this. Let's continue moving forward. Our people are still deeper in the third demon sword path. Third senior brother, who do you mean by our people? Lu Ming asked. The 9 divine dragons were also curious. However, the 9 divine dragons were only at the celestial the archrealm. In front of the third demon sword, they were juniors among juniors. Although they had doubts in their hearts, they did not dare to ask. Now that Lu Ming asked them, they immediately pricked up their ears to listen. Now, the Heavenly Palace has occupied the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace is the ruler of the primitive universe. Our people naturally refers to those who oppose the Heavenly Palace and fight against the Heavenly Palace. We call ourselves the Heaven Destroyer. Back then, we were defeated. We were no match for the Heavenly Palace, so we retreated to this place and used its geographical location as a defense. The third demon sword path. They did not stop. They chatted as they flew. They could see continents passing by them one after another. Lu Ming also found that the void here was filled with a special energy. This energy gave off a very ancient feeling. It was different from divine qi, but it could also be absorbed and refined. However, it was not as easy to refine as divine qi. It would take more time. In the blink of an eye, another few hours passed. We're almost there. The third demon sword's eyes lit up. He was obviously very excited. He had been suppressed by the Heavenly Palace for a long time, at least dozens of stellar years. Now that he was finally back, it would be strange if he was not excited. Lu Ming also looked ahead. There were many continents floating in the void in front of them. At a glance, there were no less than 100 continents. The area of each continent was not smaller than a planet in the primitive universe. Some of them were even larger. These continents were not arranged randomly. They seemed to be arranged according to a certain rule. Moreover, there was an incomparably huge ancient tree on each continent. These ancient trees were so huge that they extended into the void like the world tree. They could be seen even from afar. There was an ancient tree on each continent. These ancient trees were emitting green light and resonating with each other to form a huge array. Is Xiaoqing here? Lu Ming was also looking forward to it. Ever since Xian Yanqing left, they hadn't seen each other for many years. He had been working on his cultivation and he had been wanting to see Xian Yanqing. Were they finally going to see each other? No, our people are not in this place, but in several places. This way, we can take care of each other and avoid the situation of being wiped out by the Heavenly Palace. The Tang family's forces are still deeper in the universe ruins. Third demon sword explained. Oh, let's go. Lu Ming couldn't wait. But the next moment, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened. This was because, in another direction, he actually saw a planet, an incomparably huge planet. There were no planets in the universe ruins. How could there be a planet here? It was many times bigger than ordinary planets. This is the dragon's mother planet, Lu Ming exclaimed. Yes, he was too familiar with the aura of this planet. It was the dragon's mother planet. Lu Ming didn't expect to see the dragon's mother planet here. Immediately, he saw another strange thing near the dragon clan's home planet. Yes, it looked like a ball from afar. A hazy light shroud enveloped the entire world. That was the primordial divine lake world. The dragon's mother planet and the primordial divine lake world. Lu Ming smiled. Ao Qian and Fei Huang said that they would push the dragon's mother planet and the primordial divine lake world to the universe ruins. Third senior brother, let's set off later. I'm going to meet some acquaintances. Lu Ming said. Although he wanted to see Xian Yanqing immediately, Mid-Autumn Moon, Pantheon, and his past self were all in the primordial divine lake world. They were in seclusion. If they knew that he was captured by the heavenly palace after coming out, how worried would they be? So, it wouldn't be too late to meet Xian Yanqing after seeing Mid-Autumn Moon and the others. Well, I also have some acquaintances here. It won't be too late to set off in a few days. Are you going back to the dragon's mother planet? The third demon sword nodded. The last sentence was directed at the 9 divine dragons. At this moment, the 9 divine dragons' eyes were completely fixed on the dragon's mother planet. At this moment, the eyes of the 9 peak emperor god divine dragons were brimming with tears. Their bodies were trembling slightly due to excitement. The dragon's mother planet was their hometown. They had been enslaved by the heavenly palace for dozens of stellar years. Now, they finally saw their hometown. Senior, we're going back to the dragon's mother planet. One of the divine dragons nodded. Go. The third demon sword waved his hand. Immediately, the 9 divine dragons thanked the third demon sword and flew toward the dragon's mother planet. When they flew into the dragon race's mother planet, they disappeared. The 10,000 dragons seal outside the dragon race's mother planet did not stop them. Lu Ming also revealed a smile. With the addition of 9 divine dragons at the peak of the God Emperor realm, the dragon clan's strength would recover even faster. Lu Ming, go. I'm going to meet an old friend. The third demon sword stepped out and flew toward the group of continents. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Lu Ming, on the other hand, flew toward the primordial divine lake world. The primordial divine lake world was shrouded in a light shield. This was the world wall. But now, several parts of the world wall were open. Lu Ming flew over. There were people guarding the door, but he could see people coming and going. Some people flew in and some flew out. Lu Ming guessed that the living beings of the primordial divine lake world and the group of continents should be interacting with each other. Lu Ming flew over and entered the primordial divine lake without any inspection. After all, the people of the heavenly palace could not mix in here. And the people here were his own people. I wonder if Autumn Moon and the others have come out of seclusion. Let's go to the primordial divine lake first. Lu Ming flew toward the primordial divine lake to see if Autumn Moon and the others had come out of seclusion. Lu Ming had just approached the shore of the primordial divine lake when he heard a roar. Damn the heavenly palace! How dare you kidnap my brother? I'll flatten the heavenly palace sooner or later. The voice was filled with anger. Lu Ming knew it was the voice of the myriad deities. From the tone, it seems like the myriad deities just learned about me. Did they just come out of seclusion? Lu Ming guessed. Chapter 4268. Lu Ming's guess was right. At this moment, Qiu Autumn Moon, myriad god, and his past body had just come out of seclusion. The moment they came out, they learned that Lu Ming's present body had been captured. They were instantly enraged, and myriad god let out an angry roar. On the side, Qiu Autumn Moon and his past body had ugly expressions. Young master, will your present body be all right? Qiu Autumn Moon asked Lu Ming's past body, her eyes filled with worry. After all, whether it was his past body or present body, it was still Lu Ming. How could she not be worried? Don't worry. I can sense that my present body should be fine. If my present body had fallen, I would be able to sense that he is still alive, Lu Ming's past body said. This made Cho Autumn Moon and Myriad God heave a sigh of relief. At this moment, the expression of Lu Ming's past body suddenly changed, revealing a look of pleasant surprise. I can sense that my present body is very close to this place. It's already nearby. What? On the side, Cho Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and the others from Primordial Divine Lake were stunned. Lu Ming's present body had arrived and was not far from here. No way. Wasn't Lu Ming's present body captured by the Heavenly Palace? It was almost impossible to escape after being captured by the Heavenly Palace. How could Lu Ming's present body appear nearby? Cho Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and the others were dumbfounded. As for his past body, he had already looked in a certain direction. Although his past body and present body could not communicate telepathically, they could still sense each other. As long as they were within a certain distance, they could sense each other. At this moment, Lu Ming's present body was walking through the air, his gaze meeting with his present body. Ha ha ha, as expected of me, Lu Ming. No matter what kind of danger you encounter, you can always escape successfully. Lu Ming's past body laughed heartily, looking smug. Cho Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and the others also looked in the direction of Lu Ming's present body. Their eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. Young Master. Cho Autumn Moon hurriedly flew towards his present body. Myriad God, his past body, and the others from Primordial Divine Lake also flew towards Lu Ming. Young Master, we just came out of seclusion when we heard that you were captured by the Heavenly Palace. Are you all right? How did you get out? Cho Yu sized Lu Ming up and asked a few questions. The myriad deities and his past body also revealed looks of curiosity. It's like this. Immediately, Lu Ming gave a brief account of what had happened. They were secretly amazed. They hadn't thought that Lu Ming would experience so many things in just a few hundred years after being captured by the Heavenly Palace. At the same time, Lu Ming was also looking at Cho Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and his past body. He was surprised. The cultivation of these three people had skyrocketed. Needless to say, Myriad God's cultivation was even more unfathomable. Cho Autumn Moon's cultivation had also broken through a few layers. She was definitely above the third great supreme god layer. Lu Ming guessed that Cho Moon had most likely reached the fourth great supreme god layer. A few hundred years ago, Cho Moon's cultivation was only at the first great supreme god layer. It could be seen how fast Cho Autumn Moon had progressed in the past few hundred years. In a few hundred years, she had advanced by 3 layers. This speed was simply unheard of. However, Cho Autumn Moon's improvement wasn't the greatest. The greatest improvement was his past body. Before entering Primordial Divine Lake, his past body was only at the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Now, not only had he broken through the Great Supreme God layer, but he had also reached the 3rd Great Supreme God layer. This breakthrough was simply terrifying. One could imagine how much the eggshell and egg white left by the Primordial Divine Spirit had helped them. Lu Ming was really happy. Myriad God was his friend, Cho Autumn Moon was his woman, and his past body was himself. The stronger they were, the better. Unfortunately, my cultivation hasn't broken through yet. How can I break through? Lu Ming's present body sighed in his heart. He had encountered a huge bottleneck. He had tried his best, but he still couldn't break through this bottleneck. This gave him a headache. It seems like I have to go and ask Senior Fei Huang. Senior Fei Huang should be on the Dragon Clan's mother planet, right? Lu Ming thought. They chatted for a while. Lu Ming's present body said that he wanted to go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet to ask Fei Huang some questions. Follow me. The past body said and then stepped out, heading towards the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Needless to say, the present body understood the meaning of the past body. The past body was very familiar with the Dragon Clan's mother planet. If he wanted to find Fei Huang, he naturally needed the past body to lead the way. Soon, they entered the Dragon Clan's mother planet and headed in a direction. Soon, they came to a lake. The lake wasn't big, but the lake water was as clear as a mirror. There were lotuses growing on the lake. These lotuses were very large. Some of them were several meters in diameter. On one of the lotuses, there was a figure sitting cross-legged, like an otherworldly fairy. This person was Fei Huang. Is it the real body or the soul incarnation? It should be the soul incarnation. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. At this moment, Fei Huang opened her eyes and smiled. Lu Ming, you're here. She didn't seem surprised to see Lu Ming's present body. It seemed that Lu Ming being able to escape from the heavenly palace was within her expectations. Lu Ming was lucky to escape. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, "Tell me, how did you escape?" Fei Huang asked with a smile. "It's like this," Lu Ming told her what had happened. "So it's the third demon sword. That boy was suppressed by the heavenly palace for dozens of years. I hope he can control his temper." Then, she looked at Lu Ming and said, "You must have many questions for me this time, right?" "Yes, Senior Fei Huang. After I reached the top of the 9th godly emperor layer, I encountered a bottleneck. I tried many times, but I couldn't break through. I don't know why. Senior, please tell me," Lu Ming said. Taboo body. It's indeed hard to break through the limit of the divine emperor realm because the experience of others is useless. You can only rely on yourself. However, it's not too difficult for a divine emperor to break through to the divine emperor realm. Let me have a look. Fei Huang got up, stepped into the air, and landed beside Lu Ming's present body. With a wave of her hand, a beam of energy enveloped Lu Ming. Then, Fei Huang's eyes emitted a dazzling glow, as if she wanted to see through Lu Ming. With one look, a trace of fluctuation appeared on Fei Huang's originally calm face. "Boy, you've cultivated so many ancient secret skills." Fei Huang looked at Lu Ming speechlessly. "Is there a problem with cultivating ancient secret skills? Didn't you say that the more ancient secret skills I cultivate, the better it will be for me in the future?" Lu Ming said. He had a bad feeling. "Yes, the more forbidden body you cultivate, the better it will be for you. However, you've cultivated too many," said Fei Huang. Lu Ming. Chapter 4269. Lu Ming was speechless. "Weren't you the one who said that the more secret techniques one cultivated, the better? Why are you blaming me for cultivating too many now?" Lu Ming was full of resentment. "Yes, the forbidden body. The more secret techniques one cultivates, the better. The more secret techniques one cultivates, the stronger the power of the forbidden force will be. Moreover, it can be used as a reference in the future and it will be easier for one to walk their own path. However, I never expected that you would be able to find so many ancient secret techniques. You have already mastered more than half of them." Fei Huang was speechless. How did she know that Lu Ming was so abnormal that he could find so many ancient secret techniques? Many ancient secret techniques had been lost. It was difficult to find even one, but Lu Ming had found more than 1,800 of them. Fei Huang expressed that she was also very helpless. "Senior Fei Huang, since things have come to this, how can I break through?" Lu Ming asked helplessly. "If you want to break through now, there's only one way, and that is to rely on yourself," Fei Huang said. Lu Ming was speechless. "What you need to do now is to use the existing secret techniques as your foundation and create your own unique secret technique. Then, with this secret technique, you can break through the current bottleneck and break through to the divine emperor realm," Fei Huang said. "Create my own path and create my own secret technique?" Lu Ming muttered. "That's right. According to my original estimation, you would need to reach peak Emperor God at the very least and break through to the Divine Master realm before you need to take this step. However, because you have mastered too many secret skills and ancient secret skills, this process has been brought forward by an entire realm. However, once you've created your own path, your combat strength will skyrocket and you'll gain a lot," Fei Huang said. "Senior, thank you for your guidance. I'll definitely do it," Lu Ming said with a determined gaze. He had enough confidence in himself. Moreover, he had the primordial God Stone. Back then, the Lord of the Primordial Divine Court relied on the primordial God Stone to create 3,000 ancient secret techniques. This showed how mysterious the primordial God Stone was. By relying on the Primeval Godstone and the secret arts he had mastered, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to forge his own path, right? Don't be too confident. If you want to walk your own path, the difficulty will be beyond your imagination. For example, I have already forgotten all the secret techniques that I have mastered in the past. I only have my own path in my heart, Fei Huang warned seriously. Lu Ming's heart shook. If he wanted to walk his own path, did he need to forget all the secret techniques? He had mastered more than 1,800 ancient secret techniques and tens of thousands of ordinary secret techniques. It would be too difficult for him to forget all of them. As if seeing Lu Ming's worry, Fei Huang continued, "Of course, you don't have to worry too much. When you first start walking your own path, you don't have to forget all your secret techniques. Only when you reach the later stages will you have to forget all your secret techniques. Only when you have your own Tao and your own path will you be able to reach the grand accomplishment stage." Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. "All right, regarding the matter of cultivation, just proceed in this direction. Do you have any other questions?" Fei Huang said. "Senior Fei Huang, I want to know why the people here, I mean all of you, want to go against the Heavenly Palace?" Lu Ming asked. He had always been curious about this question. Why were there so many people who wanted to become the Heavenly Palace's archenemy, as if they would not rest until one of them was dead? Was it because the Heavenly Palace ruled the universe domineeringly and the other weaker races wanted to resist? Lu Ming felt that the reason was not that simple. "I knew that you would ask this question," Fei Huang said. Then, she pondered for a while as if she was thinking about how to phrase it. In the primitive universe, the original races and forces were far more than what they are now. Let's not talk about other things. Let's talk about the top 10 races. In the distant past, the top 10 races were not like what they are now. The top 10 races have changed several times. Do you know why those powerful races disappeared?" Fei Huang asked. "Could it be that they were destroyed by the Heavenly Palace?" Lu Ming said. He thought of the Skyheart race. "That's right." Fei Huang nodded. "Why does the Heavenly Palace want to destroy these races? Is it because they are afraid that these races are too strong and will threaten the Heavenly Palace's rule, or are these races not willing to submit to the Heavenly Palace's rule?" Lu Ming asked. "No. Let me tell you, the Heavenly Palace's strength is much stronger than you think. No matter how strong these races are, they will not be able to threaten the Heavenly Palace's rule. As for not submitting to the Heavenly Palace's rule, there is one reason, but that is not the main reason. The main reason is that the Heavenly Palace wants to extract the bloodline of these races to refine some kind of treasure," Fei Huang said. "What?" Lu Ming was shocked. This was shocking news, far beyond Lu Ming's imagination. The Heavenly Palace wants to refine some kind of treasure or cultivate some kind of skill. They need the bloodline of a powerful race, and not just one or two bloodlines, but almost the entire race's bloodline. Therefore, the Heavenly Palace usually encourages the races in the universe to compete with each other. Only through competition can they grow. This is like raising poisonous insects. When a race grows to an extremely strong level, it is time to harvest. The Heavenly Palace will find a reason to kill most of the living beings of this race and extract their bloodline. In the end, the races in the universe are just the Heavenly Palace's captive prey. That is why so many people resist the Heavenly Palace and want to overthrow the Heavenly Palace. From the beginning, the Heavenly Palace, the archaic celestial court, to me, your father-in-law, we have all discovered the Heavenly Palace's secret. That is why we want to overthrow the Heavenly Palace. Only by overthrowing the Heavenly Palace can we save the races in the universe." Fei Huang explained in more detail. Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil, and he couldn't calm down. He never thought that there would be so many secrets behind this. The Heavenly Palace's methods could be said to be extremely cruel. Why did they have to sacrifice one powerful race after another in order to cultivate some kind of treasure or skill? This kind of method made one's hair stand on end. Perhaps the Skyheart race and the Dragon race were exterminated because of this. The Heavenly Palace was the real cancer in the universe. After a long while, Lu Ming finally calmed down. "Senior, Why do you say that the taboo body is the natural enemy of the heavenly palace? Could it be that the treasure that the heavenly palace wants to refine needs the taboo power? Lu Ming asked. He couldn't help but think this way because the heavenly palace's experts had captured him and wanted to extract the taboo power. No. Fei Huang shook her head and said, that's because as the power of the taboo grows stronger and stronger, it will oppress the celestial palace. It will make the people of the celestial palace grow weaker and weaker. Thus, the taboo bodies and the celestial palace are mortal enemies. Lu Ming was stunned. There was actually such a thing. Why was that? Lu Ming immediately asked. This time, Fei Huang was silent. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.